What was it about Trevor or even about the series, The Lincoln Lawyer, that really made you want to be a part of it?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I saw was that it was a David E. Kelly show, and I've been a fan of his since Ally McBeal. So um, I was looking forward to reading the script, and then I read the script, and it was great. Um, I The character of Trevor is complicated, in a really fun way, and the stakes are really high. So I was thrilled when they asked me to join.
Would you say that Trevor is a good actor or a good salesman
Hmm.
based on his performances? And he seemed so seamlessly innocent.
Well, I tell you, I think he is an excellent salesman. He's very smart, um, and his instincts for self-preservation, I think, clearly are incredibly strong. Um, but really, I think the thing that allowed him to get away with it was that I do actually think he really did love his wife. Um, I just think at the end of the day, I think when Mickey calls him an addict, I think that's really apt. I think because he kind of behaves like an addict and he chooses his addiction over his love, which is tragic, especially for Lara. So, but as far as the story goes, it's just it's sad, but I think it's something that you certainly see with addiction often. Like it's that kind of thing. Is the draw is incredibly strong, and for a lot of people, swallows them whole.
Well, I think what was telling about his innocence, or at least his truth about his love for Laura, was that he didn't use any of his ticks or his tells when saying he didn't do this. And I guess was did they tell you that was a cognizant choice, that he was that was the reason why he wasn't giving the tells, is because he truly did love this woman?
No, we never talked about that. No, we never talked about it. But the tells, the rubbing of the leg, I think, like the being hyper focused on um, arranging things on his desk and making, his OCD, was something that was written in there and that we played as something that's like an anxious thing with him, right? It's like showing that he's nervous. But we never really talked about it. All that stuff, well, not all of it. A lot of that stuff was scripted. The things like rearranging the pens and things at the in court, like that's just stuff that I put in there because I sat down and everything was, all the pens are mixed up and it was just like, oh, this won't do. This won't do. And I started, you know, um, but again, it's an environment where it's not his comfort space, and it's how his anxiety is coming out in very little ways, because for the most part he's really good at controlling it and hiding it. But talking about Lara, because not only did he love her, but like she was the one responsible for all of these things, and I think he admired her. Like he just has like deep affection for her, and so I feel like the betrayal that he felt when he was confronted with the fact that she was going to tear all of this away from him, was just overwhelming.
Yes, he did. It did seem, though, that the company was one step above the love of his life, though.
Yes. Yeah. Well, even more so than the company, it was all of the things, right? It's the fame, it's the attention, it's the people looking at him and talking about him as a genius. It's that kind of drug, that attention that he was getting. Um, Ultimately, yeah, is what he chose over her, because had she gone through with it, his whole everything falls apart, right? The whole illusion falls apart, and he's exposed. for what he's become, which is, a monster.
Talk about then filming the scene after everything is all said and done, and you're at the podium, and this woman is confronting you. What was it like filming that particular moment?
Well, I tell you, Heather Measure is that actress, and she did such a wonderful job, and I couldn't see any of it because I'm laying on my back the whole time. So I could just hear the anguish in her voice, and we must have done it 4 times.
Wow.
And every time she was just so present and it was gut-wrenching. I just thought it was such a wonderful performance, and that is so hard to do because just coming from nowhere, right? Like she's just like in the background, and she has to stand there and watch me, do all this, ridiculous like posturing and talking about whatever it is he's about to announce, and then come in with that kind of emotional power. I thought it was extraordinary.
So you had to change your shirt 4 times after the capsules went off?
Yeah, I think it was 3 or 4 times. Yeah. We had changed the shirt and put on the new squibs and then, and it's, I mean, you don't see it, but like there's wires from each of them. So I guess there was 3 of them, and there were wires running down my pant leg and trailing out behind me. So
then someone presses the button and you feel this gush.
Yeah, it's like, it was really, fast. It didn't like it. Well, it was interesting too, because of gravity, like it wasn't bleeding out the way that they wanted, because it just kind of goes down while I'm standing. Yes. It takes me a second to fall down. And so they, I think they added in a little bit of blood later in CGI on that overhead shot.
So what do you think then is the legacy that Trevor leaves behind? Fame and fortune was his bread and butter.
Well, that's the thing. And he, the truth will never come out, probably, right? Like it's interesting to think about, because it's very, that's life, right? Like the good guys don't always win in life, and the bad guys are not always exposed. And, I would say there's a decent chance that like Lara's genius, like in this world, won't ever really be known or appreciated. This guy, everybody's going to think this woman is, crazy. People will argue about it in the public, and like the truth may never come out. And even if it did, half the people won't believe it. So it's a complicated legacy that he leaves behind. And what I am interested to see in a season 2 of The Lincoln Lawyer is how Mickey reacts, how he behaves or doesn't behave differently on his next case, having been so thoroughly fooled this time around. Because I think for Mickey Haller, I think that really hits him hard. Like he talks about, like he says, I don't get played. And you played me. And I think that's going to be something that cuts deep. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts next season.
Well, there were so many incredible moments we watched from filming this season. What were some of your favorites to film?
Oh man, there was, the very first 2 scenes in the first episode were great. Those were the scenes they auditioned with, so I'd done them. I was very familiar with them by the time we got on set, and it was just so nice to be doing them, opposite Manuel. It was just a real pleasure, kind of getting to know him a bit, like feeling out and I had such a positive feeling coming off of those first 2 scenes. Like, okay, this is going to work. This is going to be really good. Like, this guy, he's a really good actor. Like, he's so present, and I feel like we're going to work really well together. And that played out over the season. And then, like the big reveal scene at the end, in episode 9 at the cocktail party was just, that's just fun, because then I just get to just play, just bullying him like in front of all of these people. you know, and nobody knows what's happening, and he can't say anything, and it's just, you know, I'm very much in a position of power there, and I can get away with just about anything, and you know, and that's kind of fun.
There was such great chemistry between you and Manuel. Was that something that just innately found its way onto the screen? Or, I mean, was that part of your audition scenes where you had to play off of him and see if there was a chemistry between the two of you?
No, I didn't meet him until I was on set. But, you know, I mean, in my experience, like, you know, this chemistry really, to me, has most to do with whether the actors are listening to each other, you know? Because like, you can have chemistry with another actor in a scene that you don't get along with personally. Like, that doesn't really have much to do with it. I mean, it helps make it a more pleasant working environment, but there's been plenty of successful shows and TV shows starring actors that couldn't stand each other. So in my experience, mostly it has to do with, you know, whether or not the two people are actually present and listening to each other and reacting off of what's happening as opposed to what's going on. And he's great at that.
Well, what's next for you? What's to come for you post Lincoln Lawyer?
Well, we'll see. I'm still waiting the fate of the pilot. I did a pilot for CBS called Unplanned in Akron. It was with Katie Mixon and a couple of like wonderful young actors that did not get picked up by CBS, but they're still looking for a home. So we should know on that this month. So hopefully that works out. And if that doesn't, then we'll see what the next thing is.
Since you are a part of social media, what kind of feedback have you been receiving to your time on Lincoln Lawyer? I see a lot of people are just really loving it. It was the #1 Netflix show.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, I was telling Ted Humphrey, who's the showrunner on the show, I've never gotten so many texts, DMs, messages, like people reaching out from all over, like actors I worked with years ago, like, you know, people kind of come out of the woodwork to tell me how much they've enjoyed the show and love my performance. And it's been like really wonderful, actually. It's been really nice. Totally unexpected. And because it hasn't, I mean, you know, it's not usually like that. But I think this is a show that I think appeals to a really wide range of viewers, and so just a lot of people are watching it and liking it. So it's great. You know, I mean, that's the goal, right? You want people to enjoy the show, especially with a show like this. You know, you're not trying to change the world. You're trying to entertain people and give people, you know, an hour away from their real life and enjoy, you know, some characters and some mystery and give them something to solve, a little fun, something to smile about, maybe cry about a little bit. And so, you know, it was successful and it feels great.
What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the wonderful work you do on our screens?
Oh man, you know, I'm so grateful. You know, I feel very fortunate. I've had, you know, a lot of people follow my work from the beginning, from like Popular on the WB way back in the day, and from show to show. And I've bounced, you know, through so many wildly different genres. And so the fact that like some people have kind of stuck with me through all of it is really extraordinary. And I deeply, deeply appreciate it.